You dress like a Goodwill mannequin, Aunt Margot. The words hung in the air like poison. My 17-year-old nephew, Preston, was grinning at me across the Christmas dinner table, his Stanford acceptance letter propped up against the centerpiece like a trophy. His mother, my sister-in-law Vanessa, laughed so hard her wine nearly came out of her nose. She reached across the table and high-fived him. Good one, honey. She probably got that sweater from the clearance rack at Marshall's. I looked down at my cashmere cardigan. It was custom-made in Scotland. It cost $4,200. But they would never know that, because I had learned a long time ago that real wealth whispers while fake wealth screams. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I set down my fork. The dining room was decorated like a magazine spread, all white and gold and carefully positioned candles. My brother Derek sat at the head of the table, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to hear the insults being lobbed at his sister. He had perfected that skill years ago. For 16 years, I had been the invisible pillar holding up this family's illusion of success. I was Margot the spinster. Margot the accountant who does something with numbers. Margot who drives a 10-year-old Honda and lives in a modest townhouse on the quiet side of the city. What they didn't know was that the townhouse was paid off. So were the 12 other properties I owned across 3 states. What they didn't know was that my boring accounting job was actually running a private wealth management firm with $340 million in assets under management. What they didn't know was that I had been anonymously funding their entire lifestyle for over a decade. The prep school tuition, the country club membership, the scholarship that paid for Derek's MBA when his business failed, the anonymous grant that saved Vanessa's interior design studio from bankruptcy, the mysterious benefactor who funded Preston's elite lacrosse training, his SAT tutors, his college counselor who charged $800 an hour. All of it, every single dollar. It came from me. I had done it quietly, routing the money through trusts and foundations, because I believed in family. I believed that lifting them up would eventually earn their respect. I believed that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, stayed invisible enough, they would finally see me as something more than the awkward sister who never married and never mattered. But sitting at that table, watching Vanessa wipe tears of laughter from her eyes while my own nephew called me a broke loser, I finally understood the architecture of my mistake. I hadn't been building gratitude. I had been subsidizing contempt. Preston leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. Seriously, Aunt Margot, Stanford is going to cost like $90,000 a year. What do you even contribute to this family? You don't have kids. You don't have a husband. You just show up, eat our food, and leave. You're basically a charity case. Vanessa nodded approvingly. He's not wrong, Margot. Maybe next year you could at least bring a decent bottle of wine instead of that grocery store stuff. The wine I had brought was a 2015 Chateau Margaux. It cost $780. But the label was subtle, and they had never bothered to look closely at anything about me. I looked at Derek. He was still staring at his phone. My own brother couldn't even meet my eyes while his wife and son dismantled me at his dinner table. Derek, I said quietly, are you going to say anything? He shrugged without looking up. They're just joking, Margot. Don't be so sensitive. You know how family dinners are. I nodded slowly. I picked up my napkin, folded it carefully, and placed it beside my plate. I understand, I said. My voice was calm. Flat. The same tone I used when I was about to liquidate an underperforming asset. I think I'll head out early tonight. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh, don't be dramatic. Sit down and finish your dinner. I didn't sit down. I walked to the coat closet, retrieved my jacket, and paused at the front door. Preston was already back on his phone, Snapchatting something. Probably a joke about me. Vanessa was refilling her wine glass. Derek hadn't moved. Merry Christmas, I said to no one in particular. Then I closed the door behind me. The drive home was silent. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't cry. I just drove through the dark streets, past the houses with their twinkling lights and inflatable Santas, and I made a decision. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of scotch and sat down at my desk. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed in the dark room, illuminating the framed photo of my parents on the wall. They had raised us to believe that family was everything. They had left me the seed money that I had turned into a fortune. They would have been heartbroken to see what Derek had become. But they also would have understood what I was about to do. I logged into the Whitmore Sterling Foundation portal. This was the entity I had created 15 years ago to anonymously fund Preston's education. The foundation had paid for Westbrook Academy, one of the most prestigious prep schools in the country. $320,000 over 4 years. The foundation had also funded a character and leadership scholarship that required recipients to demonstrate integrity, humility, and service to others. I navigated to Preston's file. His photo stared back at me. Same smug grin. Same entitled eyes. I clicked on the scholarship terms. There it was, Section 7, Character Review. The foundation reserved the right to conduct periodic character assessments of all recipients. Any behavior deemed inconsistent with the foundation's values of integrity and respect could result in immediate termination of funding and notification to affiliated institutions. Affiliated institutions, like Stanford University, which had admitted Preston based partly on the glowing recommendation letter from the Whitmore Sterling Foundation, an organization with a $50 million endowment and significant influence in academic circles. At 8:47 a.m. the next morning, I made a phone call. "Dr. Whitfield," I said. "This is Margot Ashford. I need to discuss an urgent matter regarding one of our scholarship recipients." Dr. Whitfield was the dean of admissions at Stanford. We had served on a board together. He owed me several favors. "Of course, Ms. Ashford. How can I help?" I explained the situation calmly. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. The facts spoke for themselves. A scholarship recipient who had demonstrated a pattern of disrespect, entitlement, and cruelty. A young man who publicly humiliated family members for entertainment. A character assessment that had revealed fundamental incompatibility with the values the foundation represented. "I'm withdrawing the foundation's endorsement," I said. Effective immediately. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Ms. Ashford, you understand what this means." The Whitmore Sterling endorsement was a significant factor in his admission. Without it, I understand completely. By 11:43 a.m., it was done. Stanford sent a formal notice to the Ashford household. Due to changes in the applicant's scholarship status and supporting documentation, the offer of admission has been rescinded pending review. My phone started ringing at 11:56 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. At 2:15 p.m., there was a pounding on my door. I opened it to find Derek, Vanessa, and Preston standing on my porch. Vanessa's mascara was streaked down her face. Derek looked like he was going to be sick. Preston's smug grin was gone, replaced by something I had never seen on his face before, fear. "Margot," Derek stammered. "Something's happened. Stanford rescinded Preston's acceptance. They said something about a foundation withdrawing support. We don't even know what foundation they're talking about. We need your help. You're good with this stuff. You need to fix this." I leaned against the doorframe. I didn't invite them in. "The Whitmore Sterling Foundation," I said quietly. "That's the one they're talking about." Vanessa frowned. "How do you know that? What does some random foundation have to do with anything?" I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Because I founded it, Vanessa. 15 years ago. I created the Whitmore Sterling Foundation specifically to fund Preston's education. Every dollar that paid for Westbrook Academy came from me. Every tutor, every coach, every application consultant. Me, the broke loser in thrift store clothes." The silence was absolute. Preston's face went white. Derek grabbed the porch railing like he might collapse. "That's..." Vanessa's voice cracked. "That's not possible. We got financial aid. We applied for scholarships. The school said what I told them to say. The scholarships were funded by me. Every single one. For 16 years, I have been the invisible engine behind your family's success. Derek's MBA. Your design studio bailout. Preston's entire academic career. All of it. I just never told you because I thought." I paused, feeling the weight of my own naivety. "I thought family was supposed to take care of each other." Preston stepped forward. For the first time in his life, he looked like a child instead of an entitled prince. "Aunt Margot, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please. Stanford is my dream. I'll do anything. I'll apologize. You'll what, Preston?" I cut him off. "You'll pretend to be sorry until I fix this, and then go back to treating me like garbage? That's not how consequences work. That's not how character works. You called me a charity case while eating a dinner that my money paid for, in a house that my money saved from foreclosure, wearing clothes that my money bought. And you did it to impress your mother, who who high-fived you for it. I turned to Vanessa. Her face was a mask of horror and dawning realization. You raised him to believe that cruelty was clever, that looking down on people made him superior, that money was something to flaunt, not to earn. Well, congratulations. You succeeded. And now he gets to learn what the real world thinks of people like that. Derek finally found his voice. Margot, please. We're family. You can't just destroy his future over one bad dinner. One bad dinner? I laughed. Derek, this has been happening for years. You've watched them mock me at every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering. You never said a word. You let your wife and son treat me like something they scraped off their shoe because it was easier than defending me. That's not family. That's complicity. I stepped back and put my hand on the door. I'm not destroying Preston's future. I'm redirecting it. He can still go to college. He can apply to other schools. He can get student loans like millions of other kids. He can work for something instead of having it handed to him by a broke loser who apparently doesn't contribute anything to this family. I looked at Preston one last time. Maybe someday, when you've actually earned something yourself, you'll understand why respect matters. But that lesson won't come from me writing another check. It'll come from learning that actions have consequences and words have weight, and the people you step on to feel tall might be the ones holding you up. I closed the door. They stood on my porch for another 10 minutes. I know because I watched through the window. Eventually, they left. Vanessa was crying. Derek was on his phone, probably trying to call lawyers. Preston just stood there, staring at my door like he was seeing it for the first time. 3 months later, I heard through a cousin that Preston had enrolled at the state university. He was working part-time at a coffee shop to help pay for books. His Instagram, which used to be full of designer clothes and country club parties, had gone quiet. Derek sent me a letter. Not an email. A handwritten letter. He apologized for 20 years of taking me for granted. He said he didn't expect forgiveness, but he wanted me to know that he finally saw what he had allowed to happen. He said Preston was different now. Quieter. More thoughtful. He said they were all in therapy. I didn't write back. Not yet. Some bridges need time to rebuild, and some foundations need to be tested before you trust them to hold weight again. But I kept the letter. I'm sitting in my townhouse now, watching the sun set through my window. My phone is silent. My bank account is full. The invisible chains I wore for 16 years are finally gone. I'm not the broke loser anymore. I'm not the charity case. I'm not the awkward aunt who shows up, eats their food, and leaves. I'm Margot Ashford. And I finally learned that the most expensive thing you can give someone isn't money. It's the chance to become a better person. Some people earn that chance. And some people have to learn its value the hard way. If you've ever been the invisible one who finally stepped into the light, hit that like button and share this story. You never know who needs permission to stop being the family ATM and start being themselves.